Hey guys, what's going on? It's Gaming 24 here with a video which, honestly, this year I didn't think I'd be making. I didn't think I'd be making at all at any time in the. But to quote Triple H, "Mighty cold day in hell." Hashtag Survivor Series. He posted out an X with a photo of himself and the man in question, who's on my screen now. This is a custom CM Punk. Yes, he is back in WWE. Now, just to quickly go over things in case maybe you don't know the whole story with CM Punk, although I'm sure you all do. But just to quickly go over, so in 2014, the Royal Rumble was his last show. He was injured. He just hated what was going on, and he basically just walked out and never came back. He was then fired on his wedding day, which obviously Punk thought was personal. WWE and Vince McMahon basically said no, it was just coincidence. And from that point on, like, CM Punk obviously badmouthed WWE so much. And then there's the infamous now interview with Colt Cabana on the Art of Wrestling podcast, I believe it's called, which got them into quite a bit of trouble with, I think, lawsuits and everything. And after all that, Punk at one point said he'd never return to wrestling. He then returned to wrestling with AEW and had an amazing feud with MJF. He became the World Heavyweight Champion, and everyone seems super happy. And obviously, Punk, I think, definitely helped the ratings and things like that, because even though he's not necessarily the biggest name in the business, he's definitely somebody who, even when he wasn't wrestling, obviously fans would still chant for, especially in his hometown. Which I just want to say real quick, on the topic of Survivor Series, the Chicago crowd last night were awesome. I mean, during the show, obviously the men's war game matchup was last. It was the Judgment Day against Team Rhodes. They were doing the classic 5-on-4, like, oh, Randy's not here yet. What's going on with Orton? He's not here yet. He's not here yet. Obviously, they have the match. It comes down to the 5-on-4. That final clock ticks down. Everyone's thinking, who's it gonna be? Some fans, I think, started chanting for Punk as the clock was ticking down. Obviously, there's a little bit of time where I don't think a lot happened, and it was Rhea Ripley coming out with the Money in the Bank briefcase to cash in on Rollins. But then before the cash in could officially happen, Orton's music hit, and I was so worried when Orton came out that fans would either boo or would start chanting for Punk even louder. But nope, they cheered him. It was an absolutely awesome match. There was a great RKO spot between Orton and I believe JD McDonough. And obviously the match ended with Cody Rhodes getting the pin after a really good show. The cards all came up, the end cards, and I thought, well, hang on, I'm just gonna wait just in case, because a couple of times we've seen that and something happens. And did it ever happen? Like, this is probably one of the biggest news stories in terms of wrestling this decade already. I know we're only in 2023, soon to be in 2024, but this is a return where I think a lot of people did not see happening. I know obviously when he was with AEW, when he was taking time off, he was reportedly backstage at Raw saying hello to a few people. He'd apparently sparked interest in going to WWE, but then I think he came back to AEW, claimed to be the real world champion because he never lost the title, even though he was stripped of it after I believe after like a backstage altercation or when he got injured. I can't quite remember which one now. And obviously another thing with his AEW run I'd like to quickly mention is he cut a promo where basically he said his last match in Ring of Honor, basically gave that date, was his last match in professional wrestling. He completely ignored his WWE run, where he had some amazing matches. Probably his best match, or the one he's most famous for, against John Cena at Money in the Bank, one of my personal favourites, against Taker at WrestleMania. Um, he obviously had matches with the likes of Mysterio, Edge, Hardy, a two-time Money in the Bank winner. And it was like so awkward because whenever WWE would bring up like Money in the Bank stats and things like that, I think they talk about how, you know, like, oh, this superstar's won Money in the Bank twice, but then they'd never mention Punk's name. Punk was basically do not mention for quite some time. The fans would chant his name, and the odd occasion you'd get like WWE superstars mentioning him. Like I remember when the Elias was trying to perform and the fans started chanting Punk, and Elias said, "It's damn sure CM Punk isn't going to interrupt me." And then I think when Stephanie McMahon was trying to cut a promo once, and like the fans obviously drowning out with Punk chants, and she said, "Oh, if you can keep going for like 2 minutes odd time, you'll last 1 second longer than Punk did," which obviously was referencing his UFC run, which didn't go too well. Obviously, a lot of things have changed since Punk left. The TKO merger, Vince not having really near as much power as he did, and yeah, in his hometown, Punk came back. Now, this is a return that I think some people are going to be very happy with. Some people not so much, given obviously the toxic behaviours that happen in AEW apparently. My opinion is he's somebody who I feel like maybe 5-6 years ago WWE would have been a lot more like needing to sign, whereas now they don't need Punk. But the way I see it is Punk is still a big name in WWE. He's recently left their biggest rivals after having that match with Samoa Joe at the Wembley show. And you know what? CM Punk's still a big name. Obviously, WWE look at him and they think, you know what? We could probably make some money here. And boy, howdy, I'm sure they will. I mean, I'm not the biggest Punk fan. I'm not gonna lie, but is it good? Is it cool to see him back? Absolutely. You know, it'd be really interesting to see what he does, what matches he has. I mean, maybe a Punk versus AJ Styles match, Punk versus Rhodes. You know, we could have, hell, maybe even Punk versus Gunter. You know, who knows what's going to happen. Um, my only worry now is obviously now that Punk is officially signed, will plans change? Will we potentially get? I think we'll get Punk versus Rollins because I think a lot of people know there's definitely some hatred between those two. Obviously, Punk was called a cancer by Rollins. Not during a WWE promo, obviously, it's like an interview with I can't remember which outlet it was, but basically, yeah, Rollins called Punk a cancer. And then there was like I think after the show where, and if I've got the video, I think so, I'll try and maybe upload it, where Rollins kept giving Punk two middle fingers. He had to be held back. I mean, that was most likely a work to build up tensions between Punk and Rollins. But yeah, it'll be very interesting now to see what happens. Obviously, I know a friend of mine who I was talking to about it kept saying, "Oh, I wonder if they'll mention AEW things like that." I said, "I doubt it." I said, "The only thing they might allow Punk to say is they might say to Punk, you can call it that pissant company," which obviously is what famously Triple H called it back at the Hall of Fame when DX was getting inducted. But yeah, so I know this is a bit of a different video, but I just wanted to make one. So just to give it overall, was I surprised to see CM Punk back? Absolutely. Did I think he'd come back? I thought it would make sense if he came back at Survivor Series because it was in his hometown, but I didn't think he'd come back as the fifth man. Even during the night when they were like teasing it, I thought Punk would come out, but maybe not as a fifth man. Even though they were like teasing, would Orton come back? Would he not? Just also quickly say, it was so awesome to see Orton back. Like I say, he's one of my favourites, and to see him come back after I think 18 months off with a serious back injury is absolutely brilliant. But yeah, so overall, Punk is back in WWE. Hell has frozen over. To quote Triple H on X, or the actual tweet says, "Mike all day in hell." Yeah, it's awesome. Like I say, I'm not the biggest Punk fan, but I will be very excited to see what he does in WWE now that he's back. and I want to see what you guys think. Let me know in the comments down below. If you're excited to see CM Punk back, please do leave a like rating. Subscribe if you're new. And until the next video, adios.